What is it?
The main thing I got from it was like this sense of feeling seen and validated.
Well, why does it have to be this way?
This book was placed in my hand for this moment.
Insightful, learned a lot, wrote some quotes that I'm ready to like paint on my wall.
I love this book!
That we just kind of pull out some of the big themes that we see and talk about a few different ones.
I apologize if most of my contribution has K-pop references.
Alternative book title, The Feminine Mystique Part 2. You were really just gay all along.
Well, welcome to book club, everyone. I'm Julia. Victoria is not here. She did her little birthday minisode 2 weeks ago. And so now it's my turn, because Victoria and I actually genuinely have birthdays 2 weeks apart. We are both squarely in Virgo season, if that is something that you care about. I don't know much about it, but I've been told that I fit the type. Though I think Victoria is more of a Virgo than I am, based on feedback. I don't know. Write in and tell us. Anyway, I fully intended for this to sound like a very cool, scripted NPR contemplative sound, but this is absolutely going to be me making very weird observations for 20 minutes. So buckle up. It's raining on my birthday in Belgium, because of course it is. It's rained pretty hard all week, actually, which when I'm indoors is wonderful, because the ceiling in my bedroom is like slanted, so the rain makes this lovely like pattering sound right on the window right above my bed, and so I can crack my window open a tiny bit, and like the sound is really loud, and it like, ooh, it puts me to sleep. It's wonderful. So that is the context in which I am recording this, but I'm going to filter all the rain sounds out. I think the reason that rain makes me so contemplative, and I've been realizing this since living in this apartment, is that like it has everything I need on every kind of sensory level in order to calm down. So it's got the like repetitive water sound, right? And then the calming lighting, because like all the clouds, it means that the light is less intense. And then the really cool air, right? So there's never any uncomfortable heat. And so all my senses can breathe. And so like, you know, maybe my nervous system has been on high alert in this kind of state of tension. And when it rains, everything just breathes out. And suddenly I'm free to like have all these thoughts. And so I get real contemplative. So I turned 27 today, the big 27. And the only thing in all of space and time that I associate and have associated since my elementary school days, this is an old association, with turning 27 is the 2005 Pride and Prejudice adaptation's depiction of Charlotte Lucas. You know the quote. We do not have the copyrights to this quote, so I'm going to do a very bad rendition for you. I'm 27 years old. I've no money and no prospects. I'm already a burden to my parents. And I'm frightened. So don't you judge me, Lizzie. Don't you dare judge me. And she storms off into the rain. And this has been memed so many times and has become, you know, a point of reference for many millennial women as we passed this milestone, and Victoria and I are some of the last ones of our generation to do so. But it's interesting, like before Greta Gerwig ever put that sort of economic marriage speech in Little Women, right? It's like Amy talking to Timothée Chalamet, what's his name? Laurie, about how marriage is an economic decision for women. But way before that happened, back when I was like 10 years old, this line of dialogue really made a lasting impression on me. And I've watched this movie a bazillion times. I could quote it back to front while watching it. I remember the first time I watched it, I was so stunned at the sort of economic limitations and social pressures on a woman could get so bad that she would find marrying Mr. Collins a better option than staying single. Mr. Collins! Literally the worst human being I mean, he's not actually the worst one. Mr. Wickham is 5 million times worse. So I guess if those two were your options, then maybe Mr. Collins wouldn't be too bad, set some boundaries. I don't know. But he was just so annoying and just barreled over you and did not listen to anything you had to say. And I was just like, Mr. Collins seems so terrible. Why would she see marrying him a better alternative than staying single? Like, what is the social situation that those are her options? And so I started to wonder, like, about what kind of world I was inheriting. And were there maybe similar pressures on me that I wasn't aware of yet? It was really kind of jarring realization. And this line has become sort of like a verbal stim for me. It's like something I would like repeat to myself whenever I was reminded of the line, which is more than you might expect for a teenager. My other verbal stims are mostly from Lord of the Rings. Like, they would overwater the grass, the lawn at my high school, and so walking across it every day, I would just go, "The dead marshes. Yes, yes, that is their name." No one else appreciated this. And then anytime I climb stairs, I go, "Up, up, 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 up the stairs we go." These are both from Gollum. I don't know why. Also some lines from Ratatouille I quote a lot. Anyway, these are my favorite movies back in the day. These 3. And then 10 Things I Hate About You. Those are my top 4 films. I don't know what that says about me. Someone do an analysis of that. Anyway, so I'm 27 years old. I've no money and no prospects. Came up a lot for some reason. And so it was like constantly in my mind. And so for a long time, 27 felt like this sort of distant horizon line that I felt very curious about. And even as it continued to grow closer, it's almost like I never believed that it would happen. Like 27 is a thing that exists in a film script and not in real life. Like maybe I would just turn 28 next after 26 or something. Like those hotels that don't have a 13th floor. It just goes 12 to 14 for people who think 13 is unlucky. But at the same time, I also kind of couldn't wait to turn 27 so that I could say that line about myself and like join in this sort of glorious tradition of desperate spinsters. I couldn't wait for it to be true so that I could like quote it about myself, which is so funny to me now. But it is, it's exciting. And now I sort of have arrived on this distant horizon, and I just want to take a look around and see the sights, because of course, obviously, I'm no longer required to marry by 27 in order to not be penniless, homeless, or burned at the stake for being a witch. Thank goodness. And so in that sense, the world is quite different from the world of Charlotte Lucas. But in other ways, I do find myself relating to her frustration and her fear. I feel like, part of our generation is like having a ton of student debt and no real prospects to make a bunch of money anytime soon, at least for me. I'm getting by, fine, I'm gonna be fine. But then as the world's climate gets more and more hostile and we have these unprecedented weather events like every day around the world, it's hard to feel positive about the future as well. Like, it's hard to make decisions when people are like, "Oh, well, what do you want to do long term?" Or what do you hope this thing will accomplish? And it's like, I don't feel any confidence that next year will be at all like this year, so how should I know? And so now at 27, I sometimes find myself making decisions that feel good and smart for me that would, like, appall my 10-year-old self. She was such a purist, an idealist. And there's a certain realism and grit that kind of comes with the end of the traditional period we think of as youth and the approaching of, like, the rest of your life. Thoughts of, can I really keep this up for the next 60 years or so? Like, oof, I don't know, maybe. Probably not. But really, the main thing I wanted to talk about, and the main thing that I've been thinking about with relation to this quote, is how interesting it is that as a book person, I'm finding myself at an age where the number of book characters that I can relate to has sort of gotten thinner and thinner. You know, representation of a range of female ages has certainly gotten better. I think the romance genre is actually doing pretty well on that front. You know, there's romances of women in their late 20s, mid 30s, career women, you know, finding love. And I think of the Broken Earth trilogy where she's maybe 40, the protagonist. But yeah, I feel like growing up, I mainly looked up to teenagers and maybe like 21-year-old heroines. They were in high school or college or fresh out of college. Like Jane Eyre is what, 18? Maggie from Inkheart was maybe 15, 16 by the end. The main character of one of my favorite books of all time, I Am the Messenger by Marcus Zusak. That's a male main character, but he was 19, just starting out on adulthood. Nancy Drew was 16, Hermione was like 12 when we met her. Hell, even Jane Austen's Emma, who always seemed like much older and more mature to me while she was like running a house and stuff. She's like maybe 21. Positively ancient, a 21-year-old. And then like, what was the alternative? I mean, I think for me, I read a ton of Miss Marple growing up by Agatha Christie, right? The alternative to Hercule Poirot. Miss Marples were, you know, a bit of a family favorite. And, you know, if you're not familiar with the character, if you're mostly familiar with Poirot, Miss Marple was this, I don't know, like 60, 70-year-old woman who everyone looked down on or underestimated because she was an old woman, a single old woman in this little village. But she was sharp as a tack. And so she could solve murders by just like being the type of person people ignored, you know? And she solved all her cases through metaphors. So she was always listening to the village gossip, right? And so she used that to sort of gain this very strong network of social connections to figure out and comparisons. And so when she's solving a case, she'd be like, oh yeah, that's like that argument that my neighbors got into about the geese escaping into their garden or something. And it would seem very small, but she would always be right. So yeah, those were my options. Be like a teenage girl overthrowing the government or exploring a new world, or be an old woman solving crime in an English village. Obviously, both options sounded wonderful, and they still do. But like, what on earth do human adult women do the rest of the time? Write poetry in their underwear, hibernate until they turn 55? I don't know. I feel like the only vague sense I had of adult life, even up until I was like already supposedly living it, was to be this very powerful, imposing figure like in a pencil skirt, holding a clipboard, or sitting in a conference table, like telling men off about doing math wrong or something. And when I told this to Victoria during a sort of period of job search, she asked, I think quite reasonably, but what is this job that you're doing that you wear a pencil skirt for? And I had literally no idea. I was like, I don't know. No one told me what adult women do. I have no conception of how to fill this like 50-year period of my life. And so yeah, books didn't really help me with my vision for like my future life. Part of me thought that like the AI programming in my brain would just turn off once I graduated college. Because like what else was there to do? Like college is like the epitome, the peak of like human existence, you know? Like you get to just learn stuff all day and think cool thoughts and read books and make friends with people and try stuff. And then what? You know, we all go live in a suburb or something in a simulation? I don't know. So far, what I have gathered is that humans who like books, they sort of do their best to make things they're proud of, or maybe teach other humans but either way are often stressed and tired. And maybe they have health insurance and or job security. Maybe they don't. Maybe they feel very disillusioned by the world, not living up to its potential. They don't have a ton of money, unless they're like Emma Watson or something. They don't have many prospects. And they probably have some form of anxiety that may or may not be diagnosed. They seek beauty and try to be happy. You know, so Charlotte Lucas wasn't super far off, I think, from our current situation. So I find myself, once again sort of drawn to this striking line from Charlotte Lucas, and I can appreciate how important it was to put that line in the film. For me to see a character I liked make a tough choice as a woman living the realities of the world, anticipating the future, that's a big deal. And it strikes me now as an adult that maybe the most important part of Charlotte's line is the reminder, not to judge people making these kind of hard decisions. Every woman is out here, making choices about their life, and, in a world where often you're choosing you're choosing blindly from the best of what all feel like negative options, but could be turned around. And we gotta support each other along the way. And we gotta start writing books about and imagining our future and what our adult lives could look like and how they could be filled and interesting, and not just waiting periods while we become objects in a home or something. Because here I am at 27, and I gotta say, I'm quite proud of what I've accomplished with absolutely no idea what the hell I was doing. I'm doing research that interests me. I'm working to pay for school. I'm traveling. I'm connected with people. And sometimes I have to make hard decisions and try to take care of myself as best I can. And yeah, if I think about long-term healthcare or global warming too long, I want to crawl into a hole and never come out. So, it's sort of complicated. But I think it's gonna be okay. I already know I'm gonna make a fantastic old lady village detective. I just have to figure out how to find what I'm gonna do until I get there. What's the best, most interesting journey to that point, until I embrace my final form as a Miss Marple. Maybe I could, I don't know. I gotta gather the experience. I gotta gather all the archetypes from a small village and experience as many people as possible so that when someone asks me to solve a crime, I've got this list of archetypes in my mind and I can recognize any type of human motivation. That's what I gotta do. That's my project while I'm helping the teenagers of tomorrow overthrow the government. Maybe that's what we're here for. So the rain is letting up a bit, and I think I'm gonna go meet my friend for drinks. I think that's what I'm gonna do. So best of luck, all you Jane Austen spinsters out there. Best of luck on your real-world adventures, everyone, and as always, happy reading.
Thank you for listening to Book Club with Julia and Victoria. We would love to hear your thoughts on this book or the topic we discuss, so you can share your review and recommendations with us on Instagram at BookClubWithJV, on our website, bookclubwithjv.com, or by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. You can also visit our website for show notes with links to all of the recommendations and the things bringing us joy. If you don't already, go ahead and follow us on whichever podcast platform you are listening on so that you can be notified when our next episode is released. This episode was co-hosted and produced by myself, Victoria Bruick, along with Julia Clausen. Rebecca Gasme provides us with project management support. Our music is composed by Greg Bruick, and our logo was designed by Gabby Fabland. Until next time, happy reading.